Hey, I'm Sarah Zero from Wellstruck, and I'm just about to hop on a video call with Tina Crespo. Tina is a fine artist, and she's also a photographer for other creatives. So she actually specializes in product photography and brand photography for other creatives and fine artists. And as a fine artist herself, she knows exactly what people need to promote and sell their work. I am so excited for you to hear more from Tina, especially when it comes to her process and what inspires her. The way she talks about color is magical, and the way she works with color in her paintings is absolutely stunning. It evokes emotion in the deepest way. So, without further ado, here is my interview with Tina. Hey, I am Sarah Zero from Wellstruck, and today I am here with Tina Crespo, who is going to be my co-host for the Wellstruck Roundtable in March 2020. Hi, Tina.
Hey Sarah, how you doing?
Good. So I just want to jump right in and let you tell people what it is you do, and then maybe I'd love to have you dive in and tell me how you got to where you are now, because I know you have a lot of experience in doing what you do for many, many years.
Yeah,
So tell me about it.
definitely. So my business is kind of a two-part business. I am an artist, but I'm also a photographer. And the art side of my business, I run out of a studio in Spring City, which is right down the street from my house. It's perfect. And I love to paint abstract pieces. I love to work with color and color harmonies to try to evoke a memory, whether it's a place that I visited and I became really inspired by, like Charleston is by far the most inspiring place I've ever been. I'm still painting it, which is really funny, and I haven't been there in 2 years. Um, I also paint from different shows and music that inspire me. Last October, I did a whole series based off of The Dark Crystal, which is really funny, but it
Uh-huh.
so inspired me, and the colors that were used in the show, I couldn't get away from it. So that's one part of my business. The other side is the photography part. So I am kind of restructuring my business on that side to be more focused on other artists, makers, and small businesses. I know how important it is to have really good photography. I know, especially now, where you Instagram and Pinterest and Facebook, that's how we're connecting with people, and that's how we're showing ourselves and also our product. Um, so I want to make sure that I'm giving quality imagery to other creatives so that they can connect with their customers more easily. My background is very long. I have 10 years of experience in the commercial photography business, which taught me a lot when I think back on it. It taught me how to work in teams. It taught me how to work with agencies and other designers. And I mostly worked on food packaging and product photography. I worked with Maggie Green Photography, and she taught me everything that I know. And I loved it. I loved being in the studio. I loved problem solving and picking out props and working with art directors and food stylists and prop stylists. And when Maggie retired her business, I kind of didn't know what direction I wanted to go in, because I love doing both things very much. I love doing art and I love photography. The art pretty much took over, and I was enjoying going to markets and building up my community of other artists. But there was something missing. There was something inside me that wasn't being listened to, and I wasn't fulfilling a need and fulfilling like a purpose in a sense, and that is photography for other people. And I know that I have an ability to take what they need and translate it into the photo and give them an opportunity to connect with clients and customers to then make that sale. So by getting back into the studio, getting new clients and working with makers, it literally has been, I don't want to say life changing, but it just feels like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm listening to the artist side of me, and I'm also listening to the photographer. And I haven't listened to the photographer in a while, and it feels really good to be back there.
Hmm. You are lighting up when you talk about this.
Uh,
I've been thinking about switching this to just be audio because um,
I'm not lighting up. I'm sweating.
No, you're lighting up. Your smile is lighting up. Well, in the podcast world, like so much of the time you don't do video because you
Right.
sacrifice quality of either the audio or the sound. But I'm so excited to see your face right now because you are lighting up when you talk about connecting with other people
I love it.
and working with other people. And what I admire so much and what I think is so genius and that it makes sense that you're doing the two sides is that as a fine artist yourself, you know exactly the kind of photography that is needed to sell artwork. And so you know your photography clients so well, and you know their audience by extension of the way you do it yourself. And so man, to take the stress out of that for other fine artists and help them present themselves has to be really rewarding.
Oh, it's the best thing. And I always start when someone approaches me and I have a new client, I give them a questionnaire and I'm like, let's really dig into what's holding you back. And that's the problem solver in me. Like, tell me what's holding you back and let me help you solve this. And having clients who have been running their businesses and doing all of the photography themselves, being able to say, Tina, just take it. And I'm able to create something beautiful and hand it back. And it's collaborative. Like, I want to make sure it matches their brand colors and the look that they're going for, the industry that they're in. And to have people feel that sense of weight lifted is amazing. And I love it.
That's so great. And you do a really great job of not letting your own fine art style creep into the photography that you do of their fine art, because you obviously have a deep respect for what their style is and what their brand is. And I'm sure that's where that 10 years of experience doing commercial photography for other people, you understand that the photography work you do for them is not your fine art outlet. It's your client relations. Like, that's your representing them.
Yes, absolutely.
You're really good at that.
Thank you.
And before I move on to the next question, I just got really excited when I heard you talking about your fine art side and how you use, I wish I'll have to go back and listen to it again, but how you use color.
Yeah.
You use color story to evoke a memory of places you've been.
Because I have a background in photography, I guess I approach art in that way. I approach it as if I were recreating the scene through the lens. So there's the background, the foreground, the horizon line, which plays a huge part in all of the landscape photography that I create. So when I go on a trip or I go on a walk and I'm inspired by what I see, I actually don't take a picture of it. I let what I remember of that scene play a role in how I paint it, but I also let how I felt during that moment play in my color choices. So some landscapes are just very open and vibrant, and because in that moment that's what I was feeling, and some are more neutral and laid back and calm, and that's what I was feeling in that moment. So I let color play a huge role, even in the abstract watercolor that I do. I'm very weirdly, the abstract watercolor is mostly inspired by fruit. Like, papaya is an amazing color combination. And so I'll paint those colors and then they make me feel just happy, especially in January.
Tina, I just fell in love with your artwork so much more knowing this side of it.
Yeah.
I didn't realize, also the fact that you don't even take like a reference photo or anything. And I feel like I've read several places that actually our color memory is really bad. Usually, like, we usually remember things. And so the fact that you have the ability to do that and evoke such emotion, it's the only problem with this being audio for people who are listening to it. Like, you have to go check out Tina's work because your color, you are like the master of color.
Oh my God, Sarah, thank you.
You are. I mean, I love it.
Thank you.
And it really does evoke different feelings. So when you mentioned painting Charleston, you're still painting Charleston. You mean that like from an abstract color way, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you've ever been to the South, the sunsets in the South are completely different than New Jersey and Maryland sunsets. There is a vibrancy, a pink hue, an orange hue that you just don't see in the North. And also Florida is very different. Florida, I can't wait to go back to Florida because the thunderstorms are going to be really exciting for me to paint because they're so strange.
Mm.
Lots of green lightning. So I remember that because my mom lived in Florida, so I would go there in the summers, and it storms every day, essentially. And it's quick and fast. And I know that's not what you asked me, but it's just like this color combination you just don't see up here in Pennsylvania. So Charleston is still inspiring me, just remembering moments of walking on the beach and what did the clouds look like that day? What was I feeling when we were on the beach? What does like the architecture look like in Charleston or in the Low Country, and using those colors to kind of create a color memory connection for me has been really, how do I say this? It really showed me a part of myself that I didn't know before. And I'm so excited to continue growing that part of my business, and also just getting to know more of myself.
Oh my gosh. You have my wheels turning so much. Also, like, I have a personal fascination with this because one of my favorite reasons to travel is colors and getting inspired by colors. And I very much like get my camera out. I get my phone out, and I like take pictures of just like color blocking of like doorway next to plaster wall, next to window, whatever. But I do it all through photography, and I do that on my personal Instagram. And so like when you scroll through, you can see like, oh, I was in Iceland when it's like all white and icy blue, and oh, I was in the Bahamas when it's all like pink and aqua. So I feel really connected to this idea that you're talking about, and seeing colors like that totally takes me back.
Yeah.
And I've let that inform my design work in the past.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
that's really, I like your work even more now. Okay. So let's see, I'm going to move on to the next question, which is, what accomplishment are you celebrating right now in your business? Or is there something you're proud of? It's like a big pivot from where we were.
Let me think. Well, 2019 was like a really big year of growth for me. And I feel like I'm still celebrating that. That to me is the fact that I was in the second year in my studio, and I was able to thrive and work and do the kind of work that I want to do is really monumental, because coming from a studio where you have a partner and you've worked together for 10 years to now transition to being by yourself, it's very scary. And of course there's doubts, but I just have to keep going. Like, I can't not create. It's such a huge part of who I am. So being in a second year of my business alone in that studio is like a huge accomplishment. But like, having said that, I'm moving into a new studio, which is in the same building. It's just down the hall, but it's bigger. I get more windows, which means more plants. And I'm going to be able to build like my workshop community more, because now I have more space to invite people in, and being able to get to that point where I can sign the lease on a bigger space is a huge accomplishment for me.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You touched on your workshops just a minute there, and we haven't talked about that yet. So tell me a little bit about your workshops.
I started doing workshops about a year ago with Community Arts Phoenixville, and I was really nervous because, sometimes painting is very solitary, and like, how am I going to be able to teach someone what I do or how I do it? And I don't have a teacher background, but I found that the type of workshops that I love are more free form and more about how you feel and your experience, and not necessarily what your final product is. So I really decided to structure my workshops based upon the idea you're spending 2 hours with me to literally check out of all the craziness that's in our world, and like paint for 2 hours, play with color, experiment, and not be hard on yourself if you mess up. You can't mess up.
Yeah.
And I think that has been so surprisingly rewarding for me, to have people who come into the workshop and then leave and say, that was so relaxing. I had so much fun. I can't wait to come back. And I want to continue that. I want to keep bringing people in, and also show them that you don't need to be an artist or a creative to be creative. And I'll help you and I'll guide you through it, and we'll pick colors that you really love, and we'll go from there. And it's been great. I love it.
I got to get my butt up there for a workshop.
Yeah, you do.
Do you teach color mixing, or this is a very specific question, or do you go like straight from like when you're teaching, do they just pick colors from tubes that are existing? I'm always curious about this.
So what's really interesting with alcohol ink, which is one of the mediums that I work in, It's very, very saturated when it comes out of the bottle. But when you mix these colors together, because they blend so quickly,
Yeah.
it creates a brand new color. And you kind of need to keep that in mind and be open to what that third color may be when you're mixing too. So I have all the colors out. I have a color sheet, and then I'll do color blending so people can kind of see. But I also and I know, like, in the artist world, brown and black, when you mix too many colors, is a bad thing. But I like it. I like seeing those neutrals, and I want people to also enjoy that as well. And the same thing with watercolor classes. Everybody kind of learns how to blend in the beginning. So you start with your 3 basic, your blue, your red, and your yellow. So then you can see how you can blend out different colors from there.
Thank you for indulging me on my random specific tangent.
No problem.
So I'm going to change gears once again and ask you if you have one tip to share with other entrepreneurs, or this could be something that you've learned or something that you've failed from and then had to iterate or learned a lesson from, or something that you wish you knew. What's something that you would like to share with other entrepreneurs?
Like, be patient and be really kind to yourself, and give yourself time to just relax. I think last year, even though it was a really great, busy year for me, I definitely burned out way too fast because I thought I needed to keep the momentum of other people. And that's not conducive to my, creativity. So if you feel like you're hustling so hard, take a break and allow yourself to have that break, because we can't be hustling all the time. You need time away. You need time to yourself. So really just take the time for yourself. It's so worth it in the end, to just be fulfilled that way.
Yeah, it's so easy to think and fear that we are going to lose our momentum if we take a step back to take care of ourselves. And it's just not true. If anything, you could create more demand that way.
Absolutely. It's a great idea.
Yeah. That's a great lesson. And I know you had to learn it the hard way with the flu hitting you at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I got the flu on New Year's Eve and was sick for 2 weeks, and then got an allergic reaction. I'm like, okay, well, January is basically just hanging out, watching Netflix, and not doing anything.
Good for you. Good for you. Here might be a quick one. Do you have a favorite app or resource of the moment?
It's so funny. I don't have a lot of apps on my phone. They tend to make me anxious, and planning apps. I can't do planning apps. I have to write everything down. I have Duolingo on my phone. So I am Puerto Rican and I speak terrible Spanish. So I'm really trying to learn to speak it so that I can talk with my grandfather, because he refuses to speak English. And that's really hilarious to me. So I have Duolingo that I use a lot, and I have Lightroom. So that's my photo editing app. And I'm probably in that just as much as I'm on Instagram.
Okay. So Lightroom on your phone.
Yeah.
I didn't even know this is an app on your phone.
Well, the Lightroom app on your phone connects to Lightroom CC on your desktop.
Okay.
CC. So whatever you edit on the desktop then translates to the app in the phone. So you can kind of keep going back and forth, and you never have to upload photos, which is really
that's nice. Though it's probably better I don't go down that rabbit hole.
No.
I'll leave that to the photographers. What are you listening to lately? Does music play a role in your work? Absolutely. Or podcasts?
Oh yeah. So I'm listening to The Dream. Season 1 is blowing my mind with MLMs. And I listen to Milk Street Radio.
Wait, back up. What is that?
Oh yeah. So The Dream, you gotta listen to it. It brings you into like the pyramid scheme and how that got started, and how MLMs are essentially pyramid schemes, and how that affects communities, and how it affects people in lower income communities who, look at it as a way out. And it's just devastating. It's really devastating, but it's very interesting.
That's a podcast series?
Yeah, it's called The Dream, and season 1.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. That sounds interesting.
It's very interesting.
I've heard so many differing things about MLMs. I personally have bad feelings about them, but then I've heard people argue, oh, well, that's maybe coming from a place of privilege that you have that outlook on it.
I think it really opened my eyes to why certain people would consider getting into it. And one of it is community. They feel like they're part of a community. Unfortunately, some of them are they're using that to bring people in, and I think that's really awful. But it's so interesting.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm definitely checking that one out. Okay, so other ones.
So I listen to Milk Street Radio when I cook, which is a cooking podcast. I love it. I love when people call in with their questions. Like, I cook all the time, and it's something for me to listen to while I'm winding down at the end of the day while I'm cooking, and you just get really great advice and technique ideas. And I'm watching Top Chef again, like all the seasons for like, I don't know why, but I can't stop. Like, I love
Top Chef.
Anything with cooking, podcast, TV show. And then music wise, so I'm about to start a new collection. Like, I'm kind of in the experimental phase right now. And so I like to listen to music at the beginning and see how that can help me bring up, those visual color memories. So I always tend to go back to music that I listened to when I was younger first. And then I let myself open up to like new types of music. Rosalia is a urban flamenco singer, and I love her. Her music is so good. So I've been listening to her. I still listen to Taking Back Sunday, like I'm 14 years old. And I listen to Frank Ocean a lot as well. Like, his music really gets me in the right mindset to bring up those color memories.
I could definitely use another dose of Frank Ocean in my life.
Absolutely. Everybody could.
When you're traveling, I'm asking you because my husband and I totally do this when we're traveling, because he makes like little, like, they're good, but amateur little like videos of like what our vacation was, just from little clips of it. And we always set it to music. So when we're out and about traveling, like when we're at a coffee shop, if there's a song on or something, I hit Shazam and like make a list of all this music that we heard while we were on vacation. Do you ever do that?
I don't actually. We listen to a lot of podcasts while we travel. And funny enough, like, I'm not aware of the music that I hear during a vacation.
You might be surprised how it takes you back.
I might have to pay more attention to that and see what happens. That's interesting.
And maybe it doesn't do anything, but I find that like, so then we get home and we make a playlist of those songs that we heard. And they're usually like such a random collection. Like when we were in Italy, it's not all Italian music. It's like there's like, I feel like there's like a Led Zeppelin song on our Italy playlist. And like, it's such a clear memory though, because we heard it blasting from somebody's apartment as we were walking by, and we were like, oh my gosh, like now I associate Sienna with this random song.
That's so funny.
But it really has a way of taking me back. So if you do that, I totally want to hear about it.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. Who are you crushing on?
Who am I crushing on? Melanie Yazzie is a Navajo painter and sculptor, and I heard her interview on the Printcast, which is a podcast about printmakers, and immediately fell in love with her story and her community outreach and the ability, when she started, she was painting a lot of Native American motifs, but in a color palette that was really not sad, but she chose to be, to paint scenes that were sad in a sad way. And she decided to still tell the story of her people, but paint in very vibrant, bright colors. And then it changes the conversation that people have. When you see, a story painted and it's in these vibrant colors, people are more open to talk about it versus something that looks really sad and depressing. You don't really want to go there. You don't want to offend the artist. And she said it totally changed how people connect to her work. And I loved that. And she has like a lot of dogs, which I think is very cool. And her husband, I don't know what her husband does, but he is creative, but they do two different types of art. And she's like, I could never work with him because, the way that we work is so different. And it's like, just go into your own room. Like, I totally relate to that.
I am really excited to check that out.
I love Melanie.
So I will be sure and link to that when I post this on the blog too. Let's see. Are there any inspirational words or mantras or things that you're resonating with you right now that are inspiring to you right now?
I used to go to quotes all the time in the very beginning of the art that I started creating. Like the Circle Print series is the most well-known collection that I've created, and it's a mixture of photography and quotes from my favorite books or from my favorite authors. And I feel like that part of my life is sort of like it's lessening that connection. So I don't save quotes as much as I used to, but a mantra that I'm in right now and for 2020 is less but better.
Less but better.
Less but better. And it's just reminding myself that I don't need to be in production mode all the time. I can do less but make it better and make it more beautiful and be just as fulfilled, if not more fulfilled.
I freaking love that.
I love it. I want
it. Did you come up with that?
No, I got it from it's a minimalism book. I'll have to send you the link.
All right, cool. Less but better. I love it. That's killer. Where can we find more of you?
If people on the gram.
On the gram, is that where you spend most of your time? Well, that and Lightroom, you said.
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook as well. It's a totally different community on Facebook, but I'll be posting there. And you can hop on my website and join my mailing list. So newsletter fam gets first dibs on collections. Whenever workshops are released, you guys get first dibs on those spots as well.
All right. I got to double check and make sure I'm on that. I don't know how I'm not, but I got to get myself a Tina Crespo original.
Yes.
And how else can this community support you?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. Like, interact with me on Instagram and come to markets to see my work and other people's work. And tell your friends about, if you connect to something, share it with your friends and family. I think being an artist, who's online a lot, it's really helpful when other people are loving what we do and sharing it with others. I think that's the best way to build this community.
And my last question before we wrap it up is there anything that you kind of wish I had asked you that you were hoping to talk about that I didn't?
No.
Good.
That's a trick question.
No, I just know sometimes people come to this and they're like, oh, I was really hoping to talk about that one thing or accomplishment or whatever.
No, you're great at this.
Oh, good. I really enjoyed this conversation. You didn't seem nervous at all. You seemed like you did a great job. So on that note, thank you, Tina. And actually, let's talk for just a moment about the common thread for the Wellstruck Roundtable you're hosting.
Okay.
So it is for multi-passionate entrepreneurs.
That's right, which I feel like a lot of people can relate to. And it's definitely someone that's who I am. I'm a multi-passionate entrepreneur, creative. And I think, we live in a time where you are told to focus on one thing and get very, very, very good at it. And that's the only way that you can succeed. And I tried it and I felt like I was ignoring an entire part of me. And I do think it's possible for us to be multi-passionate, to have different branches within our business that make sense and be successful and is fulfilling and is creating a service to others. So that's what I hope that we get, to talk about at our roundtable.
I think it's a fantastic topic. It's not one that we've done before. I know that in the past, it's something I've struggled with too. People who are entrepreneurs, they're go-getters. And oftentimes it means you're like good at a lot of things. And you can't help but also think about like, okay, I love these multiple things. So why not monetize multiple things?
Right.
But then it can be really confusing when you hear that message of like, well, if you really want to be able to make good money, you need to be a specialist in one area. So
and there's also like, sometimes things can just stay a hobby and can kind of not be a side hustle, but something that you do and you enjoy, and that's all it is. So it's also trying to work through, what you're really good at, what gives you a lot of joy, and what makes sense together.
Yes, 100%. I think that can be a really hard path for people to navigate. What are the things you monetize? What are the things that you keep for your hobbies? And if they make sense together and it's the same audience that you're talking to, then they can work together.
Definitely.
I think it's great. I think it's going to be an awesome one. I say that about everyone, but it's true. I can't wait to have you as my co-host. I think that will attract a good crowd for that one.
Me too.
Thanks for taking the time to do this interview.
Absolutely.
And, I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.